Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Cooley. I am the Targeted Outreach Director for the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as the CFEI. Welcome and thank you for joining our webinar. I know we're right at 12 and some people are still trying to join, so let's give everyone about two and a half minutes to get logged in. And while we're doing that, I have a poll from our guest speaker on the topic of healing financial stress and trauma. So really great questions here. Let me go ahead and launch this poll and please answer it if you can. Let's see right here. All right, so first poll question, two different ones here. Have you ever experienced financial stress, such as anger, headaches, anxiety, muscle tension, or pain? And then the second question is kind of a follow-up. Are you currently experiencing financial stress, such as anger, headaches, anxiety, muscle tension, or pain? So these are no yes and no questions. Everything is anonymous. Again, questions are brought to us, shared by our guest speaker, Samuel Molina. And let's give everyone another minute and a half to join. And again, while you're doing that, while everyone we're waiting, go ahead, please take the poll. Thank you. All right, let's give everyone another 30 seconds to jump in. If you haven't had a chance, please fill out this poll for us. A lot of great information. And then we'll get started very shortly. All right, I am closing the poll right now. Thank you for everyone for joining the webinar, also taking this poll. Again, my name is Cooley. I'm the Targeted Outreach Director for the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as the DFPI. Welcome to the webinar. This webinar, our financial education topic is healing financial stress and trauma. Let's go ahead and get started. A lot of really great information. So just a quick disclaimer, your cameras and microphones have been turned off for this webinar. Please use the Zoom's Q&A feature to submit questions to us. We have a dedicated section at the very end of the webinar to answer your questions, so please do that. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the presenters. They do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the DFPI. Any mentions of specific products, services, or brands in this presentation is for informational purposes only and is not an endorsement or recommendation. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not legal or financial advice and does not replace independent or professional judgment. The DFPI appreciates the assistance and expertise of our guest speaker, but we do not endorse them. But we are very appreciative of them for being here. For more information, you could always email myself or my team at outreach@dfpi.ca.gov. All right. Real quickly, who is the DFPI? What do we do? So we are California's state financial regulator. Our purpose is to maintain a fair, healthy, and trusted financial marketplace for all Californians. We do this by regulating and enforcing a variety of financial laws on financial services, products, and professionals in the state of California. We also provide free presentations throughout California to help protect consumers, to help inform them and prevent them from falling prey to frauds and scams. If you would like to know more, please visit our website, dfpi.ca.gov/consumers. Okay. With that, I would like to introduce our very special guest speaker, Samuel Molina. He is from the Academy of Financial Education, headquartered in Fresno, California. Samuel Molina, a proud native of Fresno, California, earned his bachelor's degree in criminology from California State University of Fresno and holds a certificate in personal financial planning from UC Berkeley. Samuel is a certified financial education instructor, and his credentials include experience as a registered financial advisor, holding a life and health insurance license, and a Series 63, 7, and SIE FINRA security licenses. Currently, Samuel is pursuing a master's certificate in behavioral financial planning and financial therapy at the University of Georgia. With that, I want to say thank you, Samuel, for joining us. Please take it away.
Thank you, Ku, so much for that introduction. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you are enjoying this Wednesday. As Ku mentioned, I will go ahead and begin sharing my slides. If you have questions at any time, feel free to ask them, and we will do our best to answer them throughout the presentation, and of course, answer them at the end. All right. So, of course, I am with the founding CEO of the Academy of Financial Education. If you'd like to follow us on our social media channels, feel free to scan our QR codes. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, where we provide financial education on several different topics, including savings, investing, retirement, educational information, and of course, updates on government policies. As Ku mentioned, I was formerly a financial advisor. I did that for about a year and a half, and I'm currently a student at the University of Georgia, and I'm actually enrolled in their master's degree program in financial planning. The mission of the Academy of Financial Education is actually to help narrow the wealth gap in our communities through activities, mentoring, education, and instruction. So we are a 501c3, a nonprofit organization. We do not sell financial products, and of course, we can cover the whole gambit in financial planning, everything from banking and budgeting to debt management, consumer skills to insurance, investment, and retirement planning. A little disclosure here for our presentation today is please keep in mind that all content provided in this presentation is proprietary, and redistribution or reproduction of any part of this content is in any form is prohibited without the express written consent of the Academy of Financial Education. Now let's go ahead and dive in a little bit. First, I want to kind of share again financial therapy, right? What is that? So it's defined as by the Financial Therapy Association as the integration of cognitive, emotional, behavioral, relational, and financial aspects of well-being with the goal of improving clients' well-being and overall quality of life. What I like to say is that we help folks understand their money values and beliefs to help them overcome their financial trauma and thus achieve their financial goals. So today's session is going to be healing financial stress and trauma. Some of the learning objectives for today, what I hope you will take away is, of course, understanding what financial trauma actually is, having the ability to identify financial flashpoints. What are they? How they may have impacted you in your life, right? Recognize symptoms of financial stress and disorders, develop coping strategies, right? What are some of the healthy coping strategies available to us to help us overcome this financial stress? Then, of course, I want you to be able to become financially resilient, right? So that we are less impacted by the ebbs and flows of the market or inflation. And then, of course, know where to find support, right? There are many resources out there. Who can you go to that's trustworthy to find those resources and, of course, help you achieve your financial goals and get over the trauma or stress that you're feeling? So I'm going to ask my question here. Financial flashpoints, right, are life events that leave a lasting psychological imprint on us, right? So these can dictate or change the trajectory in our lives and our relationship with money. What are some of what do you think a financial flashpoint looks like or what it might be? Feel free to answer in the chat. All right, good answers. Yes, so we see that marriage or divorce, right, can be a financial flashpoint. This is not an exhaustive list, right? Birth or death, especially of a family member, new or loss of job, right? Gain or loss of home, and of course the holidays, right? All of these things, again, have an impact on us and can change our relationship with money. You know, if you were a young child and your parents were, got divorced as a result of money fights, right? And many people who do to get many marriages who do get divorced actually get a divorce because of money issues, right? So how does that impact you? What kind of relationship does that mean for you in your future as it relates to money, right? Holidays. Are we getting the Christmas gifts that we wanted as a child, right? Are we spending time with family? That has an impact on us and our relationship with money. And again, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are just some of the financial flashpoints that we need to consider and how they have impacted us in our lifestyle. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do is actually draw some of these financial flashpoints in your life. So you're going to draw an egg. So if you have a pen and paper ready or pencil, draw an egg, and within it, draw about 7 to 10 life events that occurred in your youth. So this might be your childhood, teenage years to young adult life. And I want you to include an emotion associated with this memory. So I'm going to give you all about 7 minutes, right? And of course, you don't have to finish it right now. You can finish it on your own time. But I want you to draw to the best of your abilities, even if it's a stick figure. What are some of those life events that took place in your life, and what are the emotions that go along with it? This money egg exercise is adopted by Dr. Bradley Klontz. Dr. Klontz has been in behavioral finance and financial therapy for over 2 decades, and this is his exercise. So I'm going to ask you all to conduct it now, and I'll give you 7 minutes. If you have questions, please place it in the chat. If you're just logging in right now, if you're just joining us, again, as you'll see on your screen, please draw an egg and within it, draw about 7 to 10 life events that occurred in your youth. This can be anywhere from, your childhood, teenage years to your young adult life. And try to your best to include an emotion associated with this memory. Do not worry about how bad the drawing is. I will share mine in a moment. It is all stick figures and it's not the greatest. But please draw it to the best of your abilities. And then at 12:20, we'll circle back and move forward. We've got about another minute left. And as somebody had asked, is this relation are these events in relation to money? Yes, it's, events that had an impact on our motivations, our behaviors, our relationship with money. Mhm. All right, let's go and move forward. I want to ask in the chat, feel free to respond. How was this for you? Did you learn anything new about yourself? How do you feel doing this exercise? Okay, not super helpful to the present. All right. It all come together. Anybody else want to share? Okay, Carmen, thank you for being honest. All I could think about is the instability I felt. Alex, there's many lot of life events, right? There's a lot of anxiousness, right? Okay, that is understanding. All right, Luisa, it helped me to recognize previous experiences that I did not realize and how this still affects me. All right. And again, feel free to pour more into the chat. I'm going to share my money egg that I did for class, right? So I want to share a little bit about my story. Our financial memories are really quite established in the first 7 years of our lives. And I have two older siblings. I have an older brother and an older sister. And as you can imagine, their experience with money is completely different from mine. In the first 7 years of my brother and sister's lives, they had our biological father and they experienced poverty. In the first 7 years of my life, my biological father was not around. And by the time my memories started to kick in, mom had married my stepfather. So my experience with money and growing up is completely different from theirs, right? So we had a bit more stability. We had two uh, stable incomes, and I believe my stepfather's income was a little bit higher than my mother's. And as you can imagine, this leaves a lasting imprint and impact on our relationship with money, right? So my brother and sister have, and especially in their earlier stage of lives, being in their 20s, had a different relationship with money than I did when I was in my 20s, right? And so some of the things I want to share with you, of course, on my money egg, again, bad drawing, but you know, when I think about the holidays as a young man or as a child, Christmas was a joyful occasion. We did get presents, right? I did have a family around. You see there, that's me riding a bike. So, I was excited, when I was again a teenager having my own bike. I feel freedom when I purchased my own car, right? I was 29 when I was able to purchase my own home, right? So very proud. And then last year, very much elated in starting my own business, right? And so these are things that I feel in my life. And as you can see, there's a lot of positive experiences there. And these leave a lasting imprint on my relationship with money. So now we're going to move into financial trauma, right? We talked about financial flashpoints, which can be both positive and negative. Financial trauma is stressful or negative financial experiences, right? That leave this lasting emotional impact on us. And it can lead to anxiety, fear of financial decisions, and even physical or mental health issues. So, one of our participants already shared, there's some anxiety when I review my financial flashpoints or my financial history. So I want to ask all of you, we again, what are some traumatic events that might occur in our lives, either on an individual level or on a more uh, communal or national level? If anybody wants to take a guess, feel free to put in the chat. All right, Kylie, thank you. Bankruptcy and losing a home can be a traumatic event, right? May, a recession. Thank you. Closing a business. Carmen, I think this puts us all in fight or flight, being wrongly sued by malicious people. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, the traumatic events, again, I'm not going to do an exhaustive list, but a market crash or recession, right? We've had a few in the last 37 years, right? 1987, 2008, 2020. Job loss, divorce, medical emergencies, right? And some examples I want to include, of course, the Great Depression or Great Recession. Okay. When we think about the 2008 recession, some of you may still be invested in the market and many of you may not be. There was a study done in 2022 by Investopedia.com in which they surveyed many people who were invested in the stock market, prior to 2008. And of 2,000 people that they surveyed, 15% or 300 people actually reported that their employer stopped sponsoring or matching their 401k. 27% or 540 people stopped saving for retirement or adding to their 401k. And 14% or 280 people continued to save for retirement, but in cash. So these traumatic events, as you can imagine, is going to have a greater impact on these individuals or families' lives. For example, they're not going to keep up with inflation if they're saving only in cash, right? They're going to have a hard time meeting their retirement goals. And they may give wrong advice to family and friends, which thus impacts their family and friends' ability to meet retirement goals or save and keep up with inflation. So these traumatic events, this is very important to not only be aware of, but of course, start to address in our own lives, right? And then, of course, the lost decade in Latin America. So many of you may know of someone who's immigrated to the U.S., right, from Latin America, from Mexico, and between 1982 and 1989, we see this recession going on in Latin America, in which banks in those countries owed millions of dollars to U.S. banks, and they actually started freezing assets to those depositors, right? Or they increased interest rates. And therefore, when folks immigrated to the US, they have a bad relationship with banks. There's a distrust with banks, right? And this, of course, keeps them from having a relationship with a bank, saving money in high yield savings accounts, keeping up with inflation, keeps them vulnerable because they might be keeping money at home, right? Again, thus losing inflation, thus losing value, I'm sorry. And then, of course, inhibits their ability to take out loans, either whether those loans are for creating a business, getting a car, or buying a house, right? So these are traumatic events that happen in our communities and have occurred not only nationally, but internationally. And of course, can be passed down to generation and generation. So, for example, I had a young lady that I was working with last year, 18 years old, first generation uh, citizen, U.S. citizen, and she explained to me she only had a checking account, right? As you can imagine, it's because she had a job. And I asked her, why are you not, why don't you have a savings account? What else are you doing? And she had shared with me, well, it's because my parents told me, don't trust the banks, right? And so, of course, we had to have a conversation around inflation and interest rates and trying to keep up with inflation so that your money can retain its value, right? And again, if she had not met me, it could have taken her years before she learned that and realized that she's losing value in her dollar, right? And that there are other savings practices. Financial stress, right? This is not an exhaustive list, but as you can imagine, right, when we are not in control of our money, if we're starting to feel pressure from not being able to pay our bills or meet our goals, right, we may become irritable or angry, right? Anxiety, right? We had someone share earlier that they become anxious. I had a young lady that I was working with in her mid 20s. And she said when she thinks about money, when she tries to create a budget, she actually becomes very anxious, right? And so, creating a budget is very much important in helping you achieve your financial goals. So if someone's feeling anxious every time, it kind of hinders them from doing that, right? Depression, right? We might have feelings of hopelessness or sadness, and of course social withdrawal, right? If you're not in control of your finances, if you're worried about your debt, you may start to avoid going out with friends and family. You might start avoid going to the movies or going out to the restaurants and experiencing life because you're so stressed over your finances. Physical health effects, right? Sleep disorders, right? You might not fall asleep, suffer from insomnia. And of course, if you start suffering from insomnia and you're not able to sleep, it can have an impact on your uh, production, right? Your ability to go to work, show up on time, which has a domino effect on your life, right? Headaches impacts our ability to focus, high blood pressure, muscle tension, and pain, right? And so this is very much why it's so important that our finances are in order so that we limit or reduce these physical and mental health effects. I'm going to go into money disorders. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I do want to share a few of them, right? So we have compulsive buying, right? Or some might call it, or it may look like retail therapy, right? We're compulsively buying things because we feel that little bit of joy or excitement when we buy something, right? But these are often unplanned purchases, right? And we're buying mostly wants over needs. And this can have a domino effect, again, on increasing our debt, thereby reducing our actual wealth, right? Gambling, right? We might try to escape reality when we go gambling. We're trying to make a quick buck to pay those bills, right? That are falling behind. Workaholism. So you might spend a lot of time at work trying to increase your income, but overall, it starts to impact those familial or intimate relationships that we have, right? Or friendships, because we're always at work and we're so focused on trying to, again, increase our income and ensuring that we're paying down those debts or financial obligations. And then, of course, hoarding, right? Hoarding can be another money disorder, right? We're trying to fill a void with whether this might be because of something or someone that we lost, right? Or because we're trying to make up for things we didn't have as children, right? For example, I had a gentleman who shared with me that he was a teacher prior to the 2008 recession, and he gets a call from a family member and says, "Come be a realtor with me, and you'll start making six figures within 6 months." And the gentleman quit his job, became a realtor, and he does start making six figures, right, within that short time period. And what he ends up doing is he ends up buying two homes, right? He buys two houses and then he buys seven pairs of Jordans. And as he's telling me this story, he looks at me and says, "Why do I need seven pairs of Jordans? There's no reason for that, right?" Unfortunately, the market then crashed, as you all know. He ended up losing his job. He actually went back to teaching, but he lost both of those homes, right? And he just realized that, during our conversation, that these were he was trying to make up for things that he did not have as a child, right? And there's some trauma associated with his uh, money relationship, right? We have also financial denial, financial enabling, financial dependence, financial enmeshment, and financial infidelity. And the one that I want to highlight here the most is financial enmeshment. If you find yourself in a situation where you are having trouble with money, right? Your financial obligations, you're not able to meet them, and you have children in the household, do not share that with your children, right? If your child is under the age of 18, especially, you do not want to share your money problems with them, right? This can become a very traumatic event for them, right? And become stressful for them. And they're just not at that maturity rate, at that maturity level to handle that. So I would, again, do not share your financial problems with your children. And this is what's called a financial enmeshment. We do not want to involve them in that situation. All right, Ku, may we put the second poll in the chat? Please go ahead and take a couple minutes to answer this question. Again, remember all responses are anonymous. Still getting some responses in the poll. Again, remember your responses are anonymous. If you have a question right now, go ahead and put it in the chat. All right, we can wrap up the poll, Ku. All right, so it looks like a lot of you have known someone or have you yourself experienced a money disorder. Okay, and these things are again not uncommon. So I want to talk to you a little bit about healthy coping strategies. All right. Number one is we want to create a financial plan, right? We really want to create a financial plan for ourselves. This is a healthy coping strategy to help us get out of those stressful events in our lives, the traumatic events that we've had in our lives, right? We want to create that budget or freedom plan, right? I like to call it a freedom plan as a tool for control. What I'd like to share with folks is how do we know where we're going if we don't know where we are, right? So it's very important that you map that out. What money is coming in? What money is going out? There have been studies in which they reviewed or asked people how many subscriptions they have, and they realized that the participants realized that they actually are unaware of how many subscriptions they have. You know, they think that they're at three or four, and it turns out they're at eight or nine subscriptions, right? Whether this is for Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, right? What have you. They when people are not tracking where their money is going, it can be very surprising to learn that they're actually losing out on hundreds of dollars because they are on subscriptions that they got 3 years ago, but don't even really utilize, right? Define what your personal goals and values are, right? Where do you want to be financially, personally, or professionally in the next 1 to 2 years, right? It's very important that we map that out. Our long-term goals, 3, 10 years and beyond, right? What does that look like for us? Do we want to buy a home in 5 years? Do we want to go on an expensive vacation or celebrate our wedding anniversary in the next, 8 years? What does that look like? And let's make sure that we plan for it, right? Be mindful of your emotions, right? Be aware of that. How do you feel when you're creating this budget? Is it creating excitement? Are you anxious over it? Are you happy about it that you're taking back control of your life? How does this make you feel, right? Because if you are feeling anxious, sad, or depressed, then we need to have those coping mechanisms. We need to look out, uh, for a support system to help us get through over that hurdle. Again, build that support system, whether that's family and friends or professionals, right? Or mentors. So, do we need to look for a tax professional like a CPA, certified financial planning professional or a financial therapist, right? To make sure that we get our things in line, right? Um, Speak to your family, learn your history, right? If you come from a family where money was not discussed, you may want to learn why. Why didn't we talk about money when we were kids? What's going on here, right? This can be a healthy coping strategy for you, again, to learn more about your history and what kind of went on as you were a child being raised in that household, right? These strategies will help to hold you accountable, make you aware, and keep you focused, right? I'll pause there. Any thoughts, questions, or feedback thus far? Build financial resilience, right? If we want to reduce our stress as it relates to stress related to money, right? We need to develop that financial safety net. Start building your emergency savings, right? Um, build that emergency savings. This will help you become resilient in times when you might lose a job, run into some kind of a medical emergency, right? Getting your car new tires might cost 800 to $1,000, and about more than half of the Americans cannot handle $1,000 emergency, right? I just got my car towed from Paso Robles to Fresno. That was $1,000 fee that I was not expecting, right? But thankfully, I have that safety net that I can actually make sure to pay that bill, right? Um, practice consistent saving and investing, right? We at this time have the ability to automate our savings and investing habits. So if you haven't already started, putting a 10, $20 or a couple $100 into your investment account, retirement account, that might be something you want to start doing. So you start building your retirement nest egg or investment egg for the future, right? You can automate a lot of these systems. It's very easy for us to do these days. Improve your financial literacy or skill set. So earlier we talked about the 2008 recession and how people are not investing back into the stock market as a result of the 2008 recession. Well, imagine if they understood how markets work a little bit better, right? They might be investing back into the market, right? Because the stock market has done nothing but grow over the last 16 years, right? So you definitely want to improve your financial literacy and skill set. Build adaptable and positive financial habits, right? Always think about financial setbacks as learning opportunities, right? What can we take from this event in our lives? What can we do better, right? And who should we be seeking out for help? And then, of course, the next generation. If you come from a family that did not have a lot of money, or you yourself do not, and you have kids, what I would encourage you to do is to model good behaviors, right? Model good behaviors. Don't overshare with your children, your financial problems, but do say, hey, look, I'm going to go to the bank, take them to the bank with them, right? So they have that kind of experience with the bank. Show them how to pay a bill, right? Or reviewing a credit report, right? When you're modeling these good behaviors, your children are more likely to have a better relationship with money, right? Have better relationships with the banks, which can mean in turn that they, have a higher likelihood of getting the loans that they want. So, for example, when I was a child, my mom set up a bank account for me when I was probably 2 or 3 years old. And therefore, I have a relationship with my credit union for over 30 years. Right? This is a positive experience. This is a positive thing for me because when I go to ask for those loans, they're going to look at and it carries weight that I've been with them for 30 years. Right. So please be mindful of that as well when we talk about building financial resilience for the next generation. Sharonique, what about someone who gets too anxious to build a budget? Are you talking about coping mechanisms? If you are, those are some of the coping mechanisms that you can rely upon or look to. I'm also going to share this video. Hopefully, all of you can hear it. This is a video that I share with the folks that I work with, my clients as well. Please take a listen.
That can help you stay in the moment and avoid things. You can do this exercise anywhere at home. And you can just name down counting down some senses to list things around you. So make it effort to notice these things.
Oh, okay. Sounds like the audio is not working. It sounds clear on my end. I'm sorry. What I'll do is I'm just going to fast forward and I want you guys to write these down. So if you start to feel anxiety, right, this is a grounding exercise for you, right? And it only takes a couple of minutes. You can do this anywhere, whether that you're at home, at work, in a crowd, right? To gain back control, regain focus, you may look for 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 emotion that you can feel. Okay. So again, write these things down. This is a grounding exercise. I've used it myself, right? I've had clients use it as well. All right. Now we'll go into poll 3. Can you put that up? We talked about healthy coping mechanisms. As you can imagine, unhealthy coping mechanisms might be alcohol or drug use, right? Gambling, compulsive shopping, right? Or buying. Okay. All right, it looks like everybody's responded so far. We have about 7 people who have not. Um, if you want to join in, I'll give you about another 5 seconds. Okay. Go ahead and end that poll. All right. It looks like many of us use unhealthy coping mechanisms. Again, it's not uncommon, but we want to get you to a healthy point in your life, right? We're using healthy coping mechanisms. So, who are some financial professionals that can help, right? We have certified financial therapists, right? They receive their certification from a Financial Therapy Association. They want to help identify certain triggers, recognize past traumas that contribute to financial issues, and implement new habits, right? We want to change that trajectory for you. The goal being that you walk away from this therapy with healthy, productive money habits and a better understanding of your financial triggers so you can better handle your investments, your savings, your retirement goals. Right. So certified financial therapists do not sell financial products. Certified financial planners have a fiduciary duty, right? Which just means that they need to look out for their clients' best interests. These planners often do sell investment or insurance products, right? And they cover everything from insurance, investment, retirement, and estate planning goals, right? Accredited financial counselors, they're more on the basic level of financial planning. So this is helping you, credit repair, budgeting process, right? They may or may not sell insurance investment products, right? Often the service that they're selling is, of course, their time and helping you uh, manage your finances, right? So again, they focus more on the budgeting, credit side. They may have some experience in insurance and investments. Uh, But again, they want to help you in the beginning stages of that financial planning for yourself. Some resources and support. So we provide all of those resources except for the financial products here at the Academy of Financial Education. You also have the Association for Financial Counseling and Planning Education. This is where you can find accredited financial counselors, right? And of course, marriage and family therapy. As I shared with you earlier, many marriages result in divorce as a result of money, right? Money fights. So you may consider looking for a marriage and family therapist to uh, help you and your family. And then, of course, there's the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. This is a nonprofit organization that can connect you with a nonprofit organization that in your region that provides credit counseling. Some key takeaways, again, from today is recognizing financial trauma, right, is the first step towards addressing it, right? Your awareness of financial flashpoints is going to be empowering. Again, some of you shared that through this exercise, you realize there's actually quite a bit of an anxiety there, right? Identifying symptoms of financial stress, right? How it affects mental and physical health, coping strategies to promote resilience, and of course, resources available for ongoing support. We're always looking for folks to work with, right? We want to bring our financial education services to folks. We provide our education services for youth and adults, and feel free to contact us. There's my contact information. Please scan the QR code. Ku, if you can put the survey link in the chat bar, that would be greatly appreciated. We would love to learn what your thoughts are. The survey is anonymous. Please answer honestly what you thought about today's webinar. And of course, if you have questions right now, feel free to ask. Back to you, Ku.
Thanks, Samuel. A lot of really great information. We do have some few minutes left. I do want to remind everyone that if you do have a question for our guests, fantastic topic, and I could talk all day about it as well. Please put it into the Q&A, the Zoom Q&A feature. We'd love to answer it for you. Well, yeah, well, there's no questions being submitted right now. But while we wait, I know we do have a couple more minutes. I'll share kind of my own experience. So I have two family members that lost their house during the Great Recession. One of them just closed on their house a couple months ago. And the other one I was literally talking to a couple weeks ago on how he's just really anxious to try to go back into the market and this is what it's been years and years and years now, right? So he's pretty anxious on trying to go back in the market to buy a house. He feels like he might, lose the house again, possibly. And so, there's again, I understanding that financial trauma that you suffered and also dealing with it is really, really important. Because like I said, I have one family member again who lost their house, was able to recover from that, and then move on in their financial journey, their wealth building journey. And then I have another family member who again suffered the exact same issue, losing their home. And by the way, he makes good money. He's a nurse, and he's having a hard time getting back into that home buying process because I think he's afraid of that anxiety, afraid of losing wealth, that kind of a thing. So so important. And still waiting for any questions. Here's your chance, everyone. Throw a question. We have a great presenter here. He's got a wealth of information and experience. If you have any kind of questions about financial stress, anxiety, trauma that you want to ask, please throw it into the Zoom's Q&A feature. We'd love to answer it for you. I will say last night during the election, I was myself was suffering a little bit of anxiety, and I just started browsing through, as you're watching all the results coming in, I just started browsing through Amazon to try to keep my mind off of the election. But I did realize that this is a coping mechanism. And before I went on a spending spree, I just said, hey, I'm just, again, just browsing, right? Trying to keep my mind off of this kind of stress. And that might be an interesting way to cope with that kind of a thing. Um,
So,
yeah.
Ku, I don't know if it's appropriate to answer this question from May in the chat. Do you see it there?
Um,
I mean, I'm like,
I'll you know what, I'll put it as a general question, right? So someone asked, is it a good time to buy a house?
Mhm,
They feel like they'll never be a homeowner.
mhm,
And I have my own thoughts on this.
mhm.
Samuel, do you want to throw in your expertise and experience here?
Certainly. Well, California, I assume, they live in California. California is a hot market, right? We have a lot of people moving in and buying homes. And I get this question quite a bit, right? For the last few years, I get this question. And what I say to folks is if you can afford it and you plan on living here for 5 years or more, it is, you might want to buy the house because at any point in time, I have clients who are trying to buy a house. I have someone who's been on the market for 1 year and she's having a hard time. And it's because other people are trying to buy the same home she is, right? And we have investors as well as other community members who want to try to buy that house. So if you can afford it, if you plan on living here for 5 years or more, I don't see why not. Hmm.
Great answer, Samuel. I'll add my bit. So some of you may have joined my webinar yet last month on our home buying workshop. So when I do these workshops, the number one thing, you're right, absolutely right, Samuel. Do not buy a house that you cannot afford. You're setting yourself up for failure, right? So think of it like a starter home, right? It's not going to be your forever house. It's just something to get started and start building equity. But the thing that I like to share is something that my mentor told me, which is
Mhm.
it's when was the best time to buy a house? It was 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, when was the best time to buy a house? It was 5 years before that. So
Right.
the point being is I'm not saying it's a great time to buy a house, but I'm saying it's better than 5 years from now, where the market
Mhm.
may be probably worse.
Mhm.
So just consider that. Wow, we have
Right.
a lot of questions coming through the chat. Um, I'll read it here and Samuel, you can answer. I know we're coming up on the hour. I have recently gone through a traumatic estate settlement after my father's passing. What recourse do you have if your sibling was fraudulent in this role as an executor? What if you expect your lawyer was facilitating the inheritance theft? Is there any way to verify this? Okay, this may be more of a lawyer question instead of like a
Yes.
financial trauma thing. Um,
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, so I put my email in there. I think this is going to take a bit more time to answer and try to seek out resources for you. So, my apologies. I won't be able to answer that right now, but I would need more background and understanding. But my email address is right there.
Very good. Okay. So with that, I don't see any other questions being submitted into the Q&A. So I'm gonna go ahead and share some last slides. Let's take a look here, share. We're just gonna wrap up here. So thank you for your questions. Just a reminder, some upcoming webinars. On December 4th, we have our scams and frauds that target young adults. Please register for that webinar and attend it, share if you can. Our next, we have if you have student loans, this is a fantastic webinar. It's actually going to be hosted by the DFPI's student loan ombudsperson, Selena Damian. It's about the public service loan forgiveness program. She's going to talk about all the different requirements and how the program works. That is on December 9th at noon. We don't have a link to it, but it will be coming soon. So please subscribe to the DFPI's newsletter if you haven't yet. And as soon as we get a link, you'll see it in the newsletter. Also, if you get a chance, subscribe to our YouTube channel. This webinar is being recorded and it will be published to our YouTube channel. And please subscribe to it so you'll get a notification when it's ready. With that, I want to say thank you, a very big thank you to Samuel for joining us and all the great information he's provided. I also want to say thank you to you all to joining the webinar. And please be safe. I will talk to you all later. Look out for those follow-up links. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Goodbye.
Thank you.